No, it's got to be, are we there yet? How far to the summit?
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? Oh my God, I don't even know if I can try this. So I want to go home as Nigarti Mondizi Ni Owig On Minok.
Very good. So, yeah, it's perfect.
Wow.
Right on the money. Yeah. Hey, this is a good one for all the couples out there. This is sometimes you do not listen to me. Sao I nata kapest awipa. Sometimes you do not listen to me.
This is all good stuff.
Yeah.
Broadcasting from the Woodpeckers studio in the great state of New Hampshire. Welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire. Here are your hosts, Mike and Stomp.
Episode 51, but I'm turning 50, Stomp.
When's your birthday again?
It's tomorrow, so I brought Martin in here to counsel me in my old age.
Oh, that's cool, man. Happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a big one.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. When you guys turned 50, Martin, did you... I still think in terms of when I'm 15 or 20, did you feel like you were still mentally still pretty immature compared to when you were 50?
Yeah. 50 is one of those stages where you kind of deny you're 50 and you pretend you're 30 for a while. At least I did. And but man, it is a turning point for everybody. That is pretty much the classic turning point, right? Going into a new phase of life.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I'm glad you're here tonight, Martin, because I'm going to need some therapy session later.
Happy to help.
You're going to have to give me some positive outlook on getting older here. So,
yeah.
Anyway, but Stomp, we got a few things I wanted to get through before we do the intro. One is just a shout out that the Trail Steward program, those folks that sort of check, they don't check, they just sort of give information to hikers at the trailheads, the busy trailheads.
Yeah.
There is a volunteer, you can volunteer to be part of that group.
Okay.
And there's a Google form that you can basically sign up for, and the training I think starts April 2nd, so it's pretty close. So we'll be
get the link
releasing this show. Yeah, I got the links all included in the show notes. But the training is on April 2nd from 8 a.m. to 12. And then there's additional field mentoring that will be required. But they operate, the Trailhead Stewards operate at Welsh. I didn't know they work at Welsh Sticky.
For training purposes?
For, I guess that's where they operate, is Welsh Sticky,
yeah, I see.
Falling Waters, Champney Falls, Ammonoosuc, and then Appalachia. Those are the big trailheads that they work out of.
Yeah, I actually met those fellas at Welsh Sticky. It was nice to talk to them.
Yeah.
Good people.
So anyway, so if you're interested in volunteering, I know we had Karen on probably about 20 shows ago that talked a little bit about the Trail Steward program. So keep that in mind if you're interested. Mm-hmm. The other thing, Stomp, that I didn't get to in the last episode where we were talking with Cheswick, when we talked about the hike that I did on Franconia when I went up Old Bridle,
yeah.
One of the main reasons why I wanted to do that hike was the kid Michael Miller, who was an MIT student in 1983. He's the one that went missing.
Right.
Off of Old Bridle. Remember that story?
Many years ago, correct?
Yeah, it was 1983. So he was hiking in early November with two other friends. They went up Old Bridle and then decided to go off trail for whatever reason. I don't really know why. I posted some of the old news stories, so I'll include those in the show notes as well. But the news articles at the time said that they had made it about 30 minutes up the Old Bridle Trail. So when I did that hike, I timed myself and I looked down at about 30 minutes. And basically you get to this point where you're coming up on a ridge, but you can't even view the peaks.
Right.
So there's to me, it makes no sense that they would have gone off trail, because if I were going to go off trail there, I would have been okay, I can see. They probably would have thought that it was Lafayette, but it was they really get a view of Lincoln early on when you get on Old Bridle.
Sure.
But my guess is that apparently the friends went with him and then turned around because it was too thick. They've got to be he has to be in one of those two drainages.
Sure.
That they're both called, I think, Walker Brook drainage, but they split off.
Yeah.
So we got to go on a little hunting mission, Stomp, I think, at some point and check that area out.
Well, the western side of that point is all cliff too.
Yeah.
Which would not be good.
Yeah, it's a steep drop off. So what I'm thinking is that maybe if they went down into that drainage and then his friends turned around and bailed out, but maybe he tried to climb out of the drainage to get back up onto the trail system and then got in trouble somewhere.
Just got lost
along there. I don't know.
Refresh my memory. What season?
This was in, I think, November.
Okay.
So you got to figure
pre-winter,
because what happened is that the weather was okay, and he had no backpack or anything. He was just wearing a sweater and a leather jacket, and I'm assuming like work boots.
Okay.
And the friends got separated. They didn't see him up top. They came back down, waited for him. He didn't come back. They drove home, and then they started the search. And within I think that night, one of the first snowstorms came in. And it dropped below freezing, and then that was it. They were sort of racing against time.
Okay, interesting. Let's go do some searching.
Very weird.
A lot of acreage.
Yeah. So, but the thing I just don't understand is why he would have gone off trail, because you just can't see. It's an old bridle. You don't get to a point where you can see the ridge until you get up above the drainage. So
yeah. A couple little old herd paths that branch off into Walker Brook too, just before you get to the hairpin. I mean, it's a little bit confusing in that area if you're not paying attention.
Yeah. So anyway, very interesting story and a very interesting mystery. Anyway, but other updates I have is our friend Matt that was here on episode 44. Him and his wife have started on the PCT.
I've been following them.
So he's been posting updates. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So both of them are going?
Both of them are going. So
is that his girlfriend or wife or?
That's his wife. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's right. Wow. She's a brave soul.
Yeah. He's an experience. He apparently does a lot of miles, but I think that they're going slow to ease her into it. So he's doing 5 to 10 miles a day.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow. Yeah. I hope they're safe out there.
Yeah. Did you see the video that he posted? So he's on TikTok. I'll post this in the show notes, but he had a video where they're in the desert because it's in the southern section, and they ran out of water, and he had to basically decide whether
two choices.
He hikes 4 miles. Yeah. He would hike 4 miles to the water source, or he could go off trail and hike 2.5 miles. And then I guess he decided he just ran, got the water, and his wife waited for him, and then they went up.
Interesting. I can imagine this would be a trial by fire for their marriage. Can you imagine?
I would imagine. Yeah.
I could not imagine doing that. Hats off.
Yeah, and good for her. I think
awesome.
She was hiking with him a little bit, but I don't know if I don't think she did a through hike. I think he did the through hike and then met her on the through hike somehow through Tinder or something.
Yeah. Wow. They'll probably cross paths with Jez somewhere.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
He can point the way down to the Everglade water if they need it.
Yes.
Here, let me show you. It's this way.
Yeah. So some other notes here, Stomp, that we have is Dave Dillon, who was on a couple of weeks ago. I finally got a chance to check out his video on the InReach Mini versus the InReach Mini 2.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to buy the InReach 2, the Mini 2.
Okay.
And it looks pretty cool. I mean, I don't know. I don't have anything to compare it to, but he said the key differences between the old version and the new version is that there's a new user interface. It locks on the GPS a lot quicker. It's got a better battery life, and I guess it's got connectivity to your phone. So you don't need your phone to be connected to a cell tower. It'll connect to the InReach, and then you can text through your phone, and it'll message to the InReach through Bluetooth, and then push it out to satellite. So
yeah, what's the subscription for this?
$399 for the unit, and then the subscription, I can't remember what he said. I think it's $14 a month or something.
That's
but
not
you can
too
get the
bad.
Freedom plan that you can shut off, and I think that's a little more expensive.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
yeah. It's just like a Netflix subscription.
Yeah, exactly. Other updates I have: T-shirts, hats, stickers, all that stuff. I've been going back and forth on it, but I am ordering some sample T-shirts, Stomp. So I'll send you a couple, and then assuming you like them and I like them, we're just gonna put an order in. We'll solicit orders and then put an order in, get them done.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, I know. I'm slacking. So, Martin, you're like a marketing guy. You've definitely had to like order T-shirts. Like, I made the mistake of like asking people their opinions about like what they like and they don't like, and everybody like has input, and I just froze. I was like, I don't know what to do. So
do what you want to do.
Do what it's just say screw everybody and do what it.
Too many opinions will ruin any idea.
Yeah.
So just do what your original instincts are telling you, and you're probably not far off.
All right. So I should have reached out to you sooner, Martin. Got your opinion. So.
Well, it took me like 30 years to learn that. 30 years to be in, trying to be democratic about it, and learning from all that. But do what you want to do.
Yeah.
How long? That's it. Yeah. It's your podcast. It's your website. Go ahead.
I know. I'm trying to be nice. I want to include everyone, but I can't. I just got to bite the bullet and get something done. So I apologize to the audience. Like, what I pick is not going to be what everybody wants, and I'm sorry, but like, if you don't like the T-shirt, you can get a hat, or I'll send you a free sticker.
So, Mike, here's one thing you learn in marketing. There's no idea so good that somebody somewhere isn't going to criticize it and make you feel bad about it. So just ignore it.
That's true. That's true. So, all right. So anyway, hats and T-shirts and stickers are coming. Update on what we talked about for the COG. So there's a petition against the COG putting railroad cars up on Mount Washington. They got 15,000 signatures so far.
Against.
Did you sign, Stomp? Yeah.
No. Like I said during that episode, I think I actually agree with this plan. Let's put it to rest. I think it's reasonable.
Yep.
Looking at all the legal arguments, like, okay, let's just finish this off here. It's not going to be bad.
And the cool thing is that they also, in conjunction with the plan for lodging up there and dining, they just made this announcement that the Rockhopper Racing it looks like they're partnering with the COG, and they announced that they're going to have a race on, I forget the date. I think it's like June 17th or something like that. Hold on. June 25th. So it's on June 25th, and you can race the COG. So there's like 3 levels. There's going to be like, if you're fast, you can race the fast train. If you're medium, you can race the medium train, and then if you're slow, you can race like a slower version of a train. And the good news on this is that they've made a commitment that they're gonna clean up all the debris on the side of the track before the race.
What? Before the day of the race, like a week before or something like that?
I don't know what the deal is, but on the race page, it says that as part of the planning, they will be cleaning up the debris on the tracks. And there's not a ton of debris. There's some, but it's not. I wouldn't think it's going to take them that much effort to clean it up. It's going to be a good amount of work, no question about it. But that's pretty cool. I remember that was one of the complaints in this whole debate about whether they should get that right to build up there, is that they weren't very good stewards. But who knows? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's reasons for that debris sitting there. I don't know, but it sounds like they're going to clean it up, which is great.
Cool.
Another thing I have here, Stomp, is Julie Murray, who is Maura Murray's sister. So we've talked about Maura Murray multiple times on the show. So she's been missing since 2004. She's a UMass college student that was in the nursing program there, a former West Point cadet who had transferred to UMass, had some personal problems and some challenges and decided to, skip school for the day, drove up north. She had some connections to the hiking community. She had an accident in Haverhill, New Hampshire, and very quickly police were on the scene, witnesses were on the scene, and she disappeared, never to be seen again. So it's a pretty well-known mystery, and I just wanted to give a plug to her sister, Julie Murray, who was also a West Point cadet. She has been largely quiet over the years around details of Maura's situation, but she's opened it up in the last couple of years. She's been on podcasts, and she's recently started a TikTok channel called Maura Murray Missing. And Julie breaks down a lot of the a lot of the details of the case, and I definitely encourage anyone to go and check out what Julie's doing. She definitely loves her sister, and she's doing what she can to try to find her. She does a great job on these TikToks, and it's definitely worth checking her out.
Are the videos limited to that 15-second bite?
So she has enough followers that she can do she does 3-minute videos sometimes.
Okay.
But sometimes she'll do a 1-minute video. They're not 15 seconds. They're usually 1 minute to 3 minutes.
Gotcha.
So, but definitely worth checking her out for sure. And then last but not least, Stomp, you had sent me a wingsuit video, so you said you wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, I found it pretty fascinating, and I was curious if there were heights in the whites that were high enough to propel these things. I don't know much about it, and the first things that came to mind would be Cannon Cliffs or Bond Cliff, or let's say the head wall at Tux. Do we have enough height to launch these things? And I was really curious about that.
I went online and did some research.
Yeah, what'd you find out?
I mean, I don't know much about these. So what we're talking about is those parachute base jumping people that have those
like squirrels,
the wingsuits. Do you know what we're talking about, Martin? They're like the squirrel suits.
I've been following the wingsuit thing for quite a while, and my gut tells me no, there's not enough vertical anywhere.
Okay.
I think you need at least 5,000 sheer feet or close to sheer feet to do that. And I can't think of a 5,000-foot cliff.
No.
I know Tuckerman's isn't enough.
So before the suit actually catches?
I think you need to really, and not only that, but I think you need an updraft in some way. I think you need some kind of a cooperative airflow. And I get the feeling of dead air in Franconia Notch. Somebody would have done it already, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some hang gliders at one point, weren't there?
There's definitely gliders on Franconia on summer days. You'll see the gliders, and they can hold.
I don't think wingsuits. I think they need a lot more vertical than that.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, what I found online was at 600 meters. So I think that's about 1,800, maybe 2,000 feet. Seems to be the minimum. But you're right, Martin. I think that a lot of those guys do
2,000 feet.
Yeah, I think.
Don't they also need a lake to land in?
I don't know how they land.
They can land on 93. That's fine.
I think some of them will land with a parachute, but I think it will parachute down. But I think a lot of them kind of land in a lake. I don't know. It's amazing. I'm surprised there's not more red streaks on the side of the rocks where they are. It's remarkable,
really
isn't it?
Well, I think that a lot of them do die. I think that because I was doing some research, and at least two of the well-known ones that I was reading about, they said that they died in 2014. One of them died 2016 or something. So, and then Stomp, didn't somebody that had responded to the Instagram post, he had said that all those guys die as well.
Let's get Tom Becker in here. He's a base jumper. He can give us some full one on that. I think they all have the parachutes on their back as well. So I think they jump, catch, and then they release the chute at the very end. I believe that's part of it generally.
We're going to talk about Mont Blanc later.
Yeah.
And there's one wingsuit video I saw where from the top of the Aiguille du Midi, somebody jumped off and went through this little notch between two. It's only about, I've been there, it's only about 50 feet wide. And this guy somehow went right under the bridge that goes across the two. Yeah. Going 150 miles an hour in a wingsuit? I mean, it's insane.
Yeah,
insane.
That's crazy. So that's not a way to live a long life for sure. No. So all right, Stomp. So sponsors and coffee talk here.
Let's see. We have some donations. AR donated 5 coffees. Someone donated 5, and I believe we know who that is by this point. Let's see. This person, this is speaking Abenaki. Okay, so it's Hararuwopi donated 1. Thank you for making that challenging. Kendra from Bevtown, who I bumped into in Smartsbrook. Kendra, thank you so much for the donation. This old Ford Ranger donated 3. Thank you very much.
That's my brother and my sister-in-law.
Yeah, it sure is. That's super
Matt,
cool.
Marissa, and Loki, and Addie.
Who's Loki? A kitty?
Loki's they got a dog.
Ah, gotcha. Awesome.
We'll have an East dog.
Must be Viking fans.
Yes.
Let's see. And finally, Sarah donated 3. Thank you so much. And let's just give a plug to Reckless Brewing, where you'll enjoy the best food, craft beer, and fun. Just 15 minutes from Franconia Notch. Many 4K footers and less than 10 minutes from the Five Corners. Boom.
Very good, Stomp. So,
yeah.
Anything else before I do the show summary?
No, man, we're good. Let's move on.
All right. Well, welcome to episode 51 of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. This week we are joined once again by our friend Martin Pazzani. Stomp, do you want to do your Pazzani?
Pazzani! Hey!
Yeah. Nice. So he's here to provide...
That's not even close to the right pronunciation.
Is it? Were we both off on the pronunciation?
No, you know, with a double Z, you got to put the T in there, like pizza. It's Pazzani.
Oh, really?
Pazzani. Yeah, that's true.
No, we don't pronounce it that way because that's how you pronounce it in Italy. It's Pazzani.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm an Irishman, so I'm no good. But anyway, Martin is going to give me a therapy session to help process reaching the ripe old age of 50. And he's the perfect guy to visit this week to help me with this. So Martin is he's an author, an entrepreneur, accomplished mountaineer, and avid white mountain hiker. We previously covered his book, Secrets of Aging Well, Get Outside. So we'll talk a little bit more about some of the themes in his book, his writing. And then he's going to share some new stories of his international travel and update us on some of the new writing that he's done. And then later in the show, Stomp, and I think Martin's going to help him. They're going to do a deep dive on water filtration and water strategies. And then we'll close out the show with what will be, at least for me, a disastrous attempt at breaking down some common hiking phrases in the Native American Abenaki language. So I'm Mike.
And I'm Stomp. Let's get started.
All right. So beer talk, Stomp. You got anything?
Yeah, I do. I'm on a roll here. I'm enjoying a Northwoods Brewing Company beer. It's called Evening Rise Unfiltered Lager, and it's called a young lager, or a young pilsner, that is. And it's interesting. On the back, I just noticed, I just plugged this in. It says, beer should take you somewhere, and it has lat long. So I just plugged it into Google Earth, and it pulls up a location which looks like a restaurant, but it's right next to Northwood Lake. So super cool idea, putting coordinates on your beer to go check out. So it's actually really good. I had one last night when we had to reschedule this evening. So I'm going to open it now and enjoy.
Well, enjoy.
Yeah.
Martin, you drinking anything?
Actually, I didn't think of that. I should have, because someone sent me a sample recently of two things. One, did you know Kelsey Grammer has a beer?
No, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Yeah, he's done a little craft beer, and he was promoting it in the Northeast, and someone sent me a 4-pack of it, so I've got that.
He's a Connecticut guy, right?
I can't even remember the name. Yeah, I think so, yeah. Anyway, that, and then I'm working with a friend on a project who's got this really cool Irish whiskey called Hooligan's Soup.
Okay.
That I broke out last night and had a sip of. It's really excellent sipping whiskey.
That's an awesome name.
Irish whiskey. It is, and you know, I'll show you the label and whatever some other time. But it's really cool. It's really cool. If you got any Irish DNA or relatives, you'll love it.
Hooligan Soup. That's a good name, though. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yep. I'm drinking. So Stomp, you'll be proud of me. I went to the local liquor store, and I'm always like, whenever I need to get beer, I'm always trying to get something that like aligns with the theme of the show. So last week we had the skateboarding. This week I was looking, and it was immediate. I saw this. It's called Aeronaut Native Land, and it's brewed on the ancestral lands of the Pennacook and Pawtucket. So it's an IPA, and it's brewed by the Arrow Brewing Company in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I figured we're going to be talking a little bit Native American, so I thought that this would be a good beer.
Yeah, mine unintentionally lines up too, because it has a big fish on it, and certain purifiers will not pick up the fish turd when you're about to drink your water. So I guess I could line up. Looking good. Yeah, I like that beer.
Yeah, it's got the arrowheads on there and stuff. So yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Just making this more complicated for me. Now I have to come up with themes. You know how I got this, by the way? I was walking down the aisle at Market Basket, and I randomly reached to my right and just grabbed a 4 without looking at it, and I grabbed this one. So I was like, thank God, no IPA. Whew.
Well, nice work.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to recent hikes. So I have nothing to share. I think my last hike was Franconia. I'm going to get out next weekend for sure, but I'm going into Boston this week with my wife to celebrate the birthday. But Stomp, anything with you?
Yeah, I've been out a ton with Mrs. Stomp. For the most part, we've been hitting a lot of stuff in Smarts Brook. That's where we bumped into Kendra, a listener. That was really nice. Kendra, nice to meet you. I wish we could have talked longer, but we were all struggling to survive.
Did she say how she knew it was you?
Well, yeah, it's sort of interesting. She said that she saw my truck in the parking lot, which is interesting to me because we've talked about the truck a little bit, but I don't think we've really gone into like descriptive detail. But anyway, she put two and two together. Good for her. And yeah, we saw, I mean, Smarts Brook is crazy right now. It's glare ice everywhere. So it was just amazing that anybody made it out of there alive, just all kidding aside. But nice to meet you, Kendra. Let's see. We actually did Webster Slide too, off of Route 25 in Glencliff, and that's actually the AT terminus for the Appalachian Trail. And it starts off for a mile, really steep, and then it flattens off and descends down to. Speaking of Indian languages here, Lake Wachapaca. So we had this joke on all day, like Wachapaca. And we made it to the top of Webster Slide. Man, people got to get out there. It's a beautiful spot. Webster Slide is so sweet. And yeah.
So so I'm just looking at my map right now. So that's basically I have to do this section. So this is the section between, so I've exited off of Mount Cube, and then I need nearby. To get this. Yeah, I have to go north. Mm-hmm. And close out at like Jeffers Brook and Moosilauke to close out that little section there. So Webster Slide Mountain would be part of that. So that's on the plan for this spring, I think.
Yeah, Blueberry's over there too. And if you go further north, you can tap into Black Mountain, which is super cool.
Yeah, I've hiked all those.
Yeah. And just to the west of Webster, you can actually see Lake Tarleton. I finally got that word right. I thought it was Charlton, but it's Tarleton, which isn't that a Scottish garb? Tarleton?
I'm not sure, but I think that isn't it like a fishing hatchery between like that lake and another one?
I'm not really sure.
Like a hatchery over there.
I'm not really sure. But long story short, I'm super achy from all that. Oh, did you guys hear about this new superhero movie that's coming out? You gotta hear about this. It's crazy. It's a superhero with a lisp that works out too much.
I feel like there's going to be a bad joke coming, but continue.
He's Thor.
Oh, I get it. Thor, yeah.
He's Thor.
Oh boy! I told you there was a bad joke coming, Martin.
You just knew it. You felt it in your bones.
Yeah, exactly. So,
oh boy.
So Webster Slide, you did Smarts Brook, anything else?
Oh, shoot, I forgot. Yeah, Acteon Ridge Part 2. I went up this time with microspikes, and I made it up through that boulder field that I bottlenecked on the first trip. And Mike, we have to go up there. I have to show you these back route trails up to that overlook. It's amazing. It's totally doable. It's nothing overwhelming. There were actually a lot of climbing routes that I'm sort of fleshing out right now, so it's super cool up there.
Yeah. I'd like to do some sort of a loop where we go out to, we go through that area and then end up on Jennings and then come back out or something.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I've done that. I've bushwhacked from Bald Peak to Jennings, and it's actually not that bad. So I'd love to show you that, man. It's great.
Okay. That's a deal.
Yeah,
we'll do that.
For sure.
And then, Martin, because I haven't done any hiking, I've been slacking. Do you got any recent hikes you want to highlight?
Nothing of note. I've been staying local. Connecticut stuff isn't, I don't even know if it qualifies as hiking, but there's a place called High Rock here in central Connecticut, which is a place I've been going to since I was about 14.
Yeah.
And it's a state park. Naugatuck River runs through it. It's on the border of Naugatuck and Beacon Falls. Nice little 500 vertical feet up to a hill and a cliff.
That's not bad.
But that's about it. Yeah. I didn't get up to the Whites. I think I might have mentioned when we talked last week, I didn't get up to the Whites once this winter, which may be a first in 50 years.
Wow.
So can't afford the gas anymore. It's a full tank of gas to get up there.
Seriously.
And
That's true.
Yeah, it's crazy. But no, that's no excuse. I should have been up. I didn't do much winter this year.
Are you just getting overcome with work at this point?
Yeah, it was work, and I think I mentioned I got COVID. I know you did too. We both got sick.
Yeah.
I got pretty sick in December, January. So totally recovered from that. It wasn't that bad, but just busy and distracted, and it's one of those things.
Yeah. The COVID thing. I mean, as much as like it wasn't, when I look back at it now and I think about it, it was like 3 days of the flu, but then I had like a week of like legit fatigue. And then I had like 6 weeks of just persistent cough. And it, like, when you total it all up, it just got me in a funk. And it was just like, even though COVID's like not that bad, like when you're in it, like Stomp, you had the same thing. It's just like, You're right. It took me out for 2 months, really.
I did some research too, because when I got it, I was doing the snowmobiling thing at the time. So I think that was part of it, but I assessed myself. I don't think I have carpal tunnel. I have had this very mild, like I want to call it like almost like a palsy. It's very subtle. Like I have a hard time like tying my shoes or turning doorknobs, but it's getting better. So it prompted me to do some research, and believe it or not, some people are experiencing this weird side effect where there's like this, I don't know what the hell it is, but it's actually getting better. And I would say it was carpal, but unfortunately it's elsewhere. It's my neck, it's my leg, my hip. It's very strange, but it's resolving. So who knows?
Now, Martin, do you go out in Connecticut a lot, or is it just occasional for you?
I try to get out once a week, Mike. I'm near a few places. I'm not far from Bear Mountain, which is a nice little hike. A place called Steep Rock Preserve is just down the road in Litchfield County. It's a nice little hike. Not much vertical, but it's woody and it goes by a river. So not a lot of vertical, but lots of places to hike. I mean, lots. And then just 2 miles from my house is a big reservoir that's got about 50 miles of hiking in it. And
wow.
That's my go-to place for getting out there. So no complaints. I mean, I can get out quite often.
Yeah.
But I miss the vertical. I miss the Whites when I'm not up there quite a bit. So,
well, hopefully you'll get up there soon. Let me know when you do head up there.
We're definitely gonna have to connect this season for sure.
It's time for SLASR's Guest of the Week. Very cool. Very cool.
We might as well just get right into your segment here, Martin. So so we've introduced you already, but do you want to just sort of give a quick overview of your background and a little bit about your writing and a little bit about your background in mountaineering and hiking?
Yeah. So, I've been hiking and climbing for about 50 years. I started literally the first major hike I ever went on was this place, High Rock, where I just mentioned when I was 14 in Boy Scouts. And, so since then, I've taken it to 7 continents. I like to say on the back cover of my book, I've got 100 million uphill steps over 50 years on 7 continents. A lot of it climbing, a lot of it hiking, and a lot of it training for climbing. My background is I'm a career marketing guy in big corporations. About 10 years ago, I became an entrepreneur, got a few of my own companies. But somewhere along the line, I got the idea of writing this book that kind of is combination of what I know about hiking and what I know about brain health, because one of my companies is a brain health company, and then adding to that some of my personal story and the stories of about 100 people I interviewed and talked to, and got some of those in the book. So because I'm into anti-aging, which will help you tonight, I thought that was the angle to take with the book. Nobody needed another hero book about climbing a mountain or whatever. I think people needed a book about the benefits and how hiking, as I like to refer to it, is the fountain of youth. And I would suspect also that 3 of us having COVID, one of the reasons we were reasonably resilient to it, even though we had it, was because we are hikers. I think hiking just gives your immune system such a boost, and gives you physical reserves that the people who don't hike don't have, unless they're super fit from some other way. But I think we have a resilience as a result of hiking that is a real benefit, and that some of that is in the book. So, it's a little bit of hiking, a little bit of technique, a little bit of storytelling, a little bit of fitness and brain health, and mashed all together with some interesting hiking stories. And, we had the bad fortune, I think, in some ways, to introduce it literally a month after the COVID crisis started. So, even though getting outside was probably the number one thing people should do more, for the first year, people were kind of just scared indoors. And I actually had a whole speaking gig set up with REI. And of course, they closed all the REI stores for the first 6 months. So that went wayside. So that's what's prompted me to write the second edition of the book now. Okay. And I'm tweaking it a little bit. We'll talk about that later. But I give it a fair shot now when it's post-COVID. We'll see how that does.
Yeah. And I would say, I've read your book. I was actually looking at it again tonight, a couple of days ago, just from preparation for this. And I think for me, the epiphany I had after going through it, and I had sort of been thinking about this for a while, and then your writing kind of like sealed it for me. But like I had gotten to the point where, chronic injuries with running was always an issue for me. And, my mindset was always like, go, 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 and push myself as hard as I can. And I wasn't really thinking in the long term as much as I should have. So your book sort of like gives you a perspective around like, challenge yourself, be resilient, but also don't forget that it's the long game, and that, the goal is to be, not just be active and be, doing adventures all the time, but do it in a way that allows you to extend the quality of your life well past what we normally think of as, the age of retirement. And I think that it's changing quite a bit, but it used to be this sort of this idea that like, okay, you work, then you retire. And then once you're retired, you leave a sedentary life, and your health usually just goes downhill pretty quickly, and that's just not the way to go.
There's a quote, I don't know why I tagged it, but it's exactly what you just said. There's a quote in the book on page 63. We do not stop exercising because we grow old. We grow old because we stop exercising.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really true. That's pretty much the book. You can completely delay, you can change the trajectory of the way you age by staying fit. Now, how do you stay fit? We're talking about hiking. I think hiking is about the best thing you can do, because it has cognitive and physical benefits, and it gives you goals. Goals are important in this equation here. That's why we talked about that list of things. I always like to have a list of projects that I'm shooting for, because you stop planning a list, you stop exercising, and you start to slide down that trajectory of aging, and you can fight that for a really long time if you stay fit.
Yeah.
So that's really the central message of the book. Is it's the antidote to aging, and what comes with that is the general idea that no, you don't have to retire. In fact, you shouldn't retire at 65, because that contributes to cognitive decline and kind of what are you going to do? Play golf or sit on the couch and watch Netflix? I mean, I personally have set my goal to not retire until I'm at the earliest 75. And then maybe relax and enjoy things. When the retirement age was set at 65, life expectancy was 66. So, the intent wasn't to retire and then live 30 years doing nothing. The intent was enjoy a year or two before you're done. So I think we're going to have to deal with that as a culture soon. Mm-hmm. But in any case, I just think retiring is a way of giving up. And when you give up, you go down that bad path.
Just think of those like sadistic government actuaries who came up with that idea of retirement age back then.
I know it was brilliantly sadistic. You got to admit, when it first came up, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Stomp, it's so funny. Like this came up. So Stomp runs the Instagram account for us, and I was like, I want to post a picture. It was like Stomp was posting all this stuff, and I was like, I want to post. I don't know how to do stories or any of that stuff, but I was like, I want to find something with Stomp. So I looked back, and I got a video of us hiking Mount Parker in 2019. We've talked about this hike before. It was a tough hike. And the thing that struck me is I got a video of Stomp breaking trail in front of me. And this was like when his hip was going out. And this was like, I think this was the moment, Stomp, where you realize like, okay, this is real with my hip situation. And I could see the pain in that hike.
That's why I was using hiking poles. I mean, that's like the only time you would ever see me using poles. I was trying to unload the hip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I didn't want to give up that activity and health and everything else. Cool video.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But it makes me think about all the stuff that Martin's raising around, like, you know, if you push yourself, thank God that we live in the time that we live in where we have this amazing surgeries that can fix people's hips and joints and things like this. But it just makes me think too, it's like not just the COVID, but like the fact that you were always physically fit allowed you to bounce back a lot quicker, I think, than it would have otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Being fit gives you what's called physical reserve. That physical reserve is really important when you need it. When you get sick, if you need surgery, it allows you to bounce back from things.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we'll dig into some of the stuff in a little bit more detail in a minute here. But one of the things, Martin, I asked you, and I want to start asking some of the guests that we have in the next few shows because we're starting the summertime. I wanted to see if you could give us 3 awesome things that you would recommend for this summer. They could be anything, you know, if it's tied to the whites or whatever. But what do you got?
Yeah, you know, there's so many things to choose from. Limiting it to 3 is tough. But, you know, the theme of my book is not to put out these extreme adventures. Anybody can say do the Franconia Ridge, right? Anybody can say do the Presidential Traverse. Those are great things. But there's some things that are just real special to me that aren't extreme and are accessible, and I love them. And, you know, one of my go-to things, I just love staying in the Lafayette campground, hiking up to Lonesome Lake and hanging out in that general area, going around the lake and maybe go up a little higher. But it doesn't have to be the top of something. You know, I just like that area. Plus, you get this great view of Lafayette and the ridge. It's just such a nice vibe. And in the same basic area, you laugh, I love going up to Artist Bluff. It's just a great spot.
Oh, hell yeah.
And that's why it's the cover of my book. It's me standing on Artist Bluff. I just think that's got such a great symmetry to it. Franconia Notch, I've been going there since I was like 12. You know, my parents used to camp up in Lafayette Campground, so it's special to me. So that's always great. But if you want something a little more adventurous, for me, it doesn't get any better than Bond Cliff. I just love Bond Cliff. It's, to me, one of the most special places in the Whites. I think it's the most remote point in all the Whites.
I would say so,
It's the furthest from a road. I think it is. But it's just such a great spot and pretty and remote, and hardly ever got people there. No, it's a great spot. Bond Cliff.
Awesome. And then Lafayette Campground. So you've actually said this to me before. So when you're up in the Whites, that's like your, you don't stay in a hotel or anything. You typically stay at the campground?
I do. I mix it up. I like camping, but I also like a few creature comforts. I got to admit, I've stayed at the Mount Washington Hotel.
Okay.
I stay at some of the places in Franconia. I stay in the huts when I want, and I don't feel like carrying a tent. So yeah, getting up in years, you don't want to lug it all around. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, every now and then you want to take a shower when you're done, not just towel yourself off.
Yeah.
So no, I like it all. I like Crawford Notch campground too. I like that. Dry River is a nice spot. Yeah. A little more remote than Lafayette, but no, it's all good. There's just so many great spots. Literally, my parents loved New Hampshire. And, we're from Brooklyn. My parents used to view New Hampshire as kind of like going to Austria, and so we camped there a couple times a year since many years ago. And it's my go-to place still. Yeah.
And I need to start doing a little, it makes me think about like your point about just kicking around Lonesome Lake. Like I always think about like how cool it would be just to hike up to Lonesome Lake with a book and just throw my hammock up on beside the lake and just chill out for the day.
It's a great spot. And I even love it in the winter. That hut is open all year, and you got to carry your food and stuff, and it gives you a little break. But there's nothing better than walking across that lake in the middle of winter.
Oh, it's so cool.
It's really cool.
And it doesn't eat up your day. It's like you can do the hike, and then you're out, and then you can do something else without it killing your whole Sunday. It's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Actually, I have a good story about Lonesome Lake. So we did, my friend Jonathan and my friend Tom, who I talk about a lot, we did an overnight. So we ended up doing the Kinsmans, and then our plan was to hike Cannon the next morning, but we got hit by a blizzard. So we didn't stay in the hut, but we camped along Lonesome Lake. There's some tent sites on the other side, and we decided not to go to Cannon because of the storm coming in. So we were breaking up camp, and then we look over across Lonesome Lake, and there's like the line of the Boy Scouts. The Boy Scouts stay at the hut. There was like 25 of them, and we were just like, we cannot get stuck behind them. We have to hurry up and break camp down and get out in front of them. So usually Lonesome Lake is good, but if there's 25 Boy Scouts coming across it, you got to run.
It's popular for that.
Yeah, lately the weekends in any of those accessible spots are a little crowded, but yeah, you got to pick your times.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so Martin, next question I had for you was, we talked about this a little bit in the beginning of the show, but with me turning 50, like people turn 60, they turn 70, they turn 80. Milestones, what is your advice on handling and facing milestones? Do we ignore them? Do we embrace it? What do you think?
I say embrace it. In fact, that's the word I wrote on my notes here, embrace it. I'm embracing being 65. They advise you not to admit your age when you get above 55 in corporate world. I'm proud of the fact that I'm 65. I got all this experience, and I'm still fit and active. I still have most of my faculties. I have all my knees. I have original knees and hips. I'm not bionic in any way, shape, or form. And I think we're right at a place where the way we're defining aging is got to change. It's evolving, because here's the thing: half of the adult population is above age 50. That's number one. Number two, the fastest part of the population growth is coming from people above 80, 90, and 100. And those numbers are going to continue to increase as both fitness and diet and medical abilities and surgery can prolong lives. So we better figure out as a culture, how to live with an older population. Interesting, I just tracked this number down. I'll read it to you. The highly respected World Health Organization has just redefined aging. And now 18 to 65 is considered young, according to the World Health Organization. 66 to 79 is considered middle age. 80 to 99 is elderly, and 100 plus is considered long-lived elderly. So everyone is struggling, even the World Health Organization, for how to redefine aging. And I say embrace it. Typically 50 is a turning point, Mike, and good luck to you tomorrow. But these are interesting milestones. There's others as well. So, empty nest is possibly a bigger
That's
milestone.
coming up soon,
all of a sudden, yeah. And then 60 is a milestone, and each decade becomes a milestone. But I say embrace it. As long as you stay fit, you don't feel old. I still feel like I have the mind of a 40-year-old. So I'm not too worried about years. And the whole nature of the book is embrace it and live with it and be as good as you can be at your advanced ages. I got some friends who are working at age 80, and I know some people in the book hiking at 80 plus. The genesis of the book really was something I saw when I was about 35 on Mount Washington. I was coming down from the rock pile somewhere near Lionhead, and I saw this guy running at me, literally, trail running. This is like, I don't know, late 80s. And he came up to me, and he told me he was 75 years old. I'd never seen a 75-year-old guy super fit like that running up Mount Washington. And it really blew my mind. It stayed with me. And that is really what, if I had to think about a seminal moment of what convinced me that hiking is the fountain of youth, that is it.
Yeah. So
just keep walking uphill.
Nice. So Stomp, me and you, we've talked about this before in the past, but I feel like we both had health resets in the past. I was heavy when I was about 30. I don't know how my youngest daughter, I was a little bit heavy and I got back into shape, and I've been pretty consistent since, and you've had a few up and downs as far as weight, and I think the hip thing definitely, as much as you sort of played it down, I think that hit pretty hard for you to get back into shape. But yeah. Do you think, Stomp, do you feel like you are in good shape again at this point, or are you trying to get reset back into your fighting weight again?
I'm trying to fight back to where I was before this hip really was a problem. But the only thing I'm missing right now is just a little bit of cardio. I feel great. I mean, occasionally my hip gives me some quirky pain here and there, but I'm cranking it out. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm actually a little bit tempted to try a little bit of light, bird step running again. I feel really good.
Did you get a replacement hip?
I did. I had congenital hip dysplasia, so it bit me after my last Mount Washington road race, and that was in my mid-40s. That's when they discovered that I actually had the condition, and both hips have been operated on. My left hip is original, and the doctor that just did my right hip for a hip replacement says I have another 5 to 7 years on it, which is fantastic news. So yeah, that was talk about a monkey wrench. I mean, I had just run the Mount Washington road race, and then boom, dead stop.
Wow.
I remember the run. It was around Winnikenny Lake in Haverhill. Get back in my car, my hip locked at 90 degrees. I couldn't move it, and that was the beginning of the end for my left. Just crazy. So to overcome that mentally and then physically has been very eye-opening, and it gives you a hell of a lot of empathy for people with hip replacements and things like that. Especially in my line of work as a physical therapist, like I just look at these people a little differently now.
Well, you can recover from that. I take some inspiration from my younger brother. Has 2 artificial hips and 2 artificial knees, and it took him 5 years to get through that. And now he's hiking again. He literally is hiking again and feels pretty good. And if you can recover from all bionic joints in your legs, wow, so good for you.
Yeah. And Martin, one thing I did want to ask you was, you have this discussion in your book around hamster wheel, and I definitely feel like I'm on it. Like especially COVID's been great, and I'm working remote now, and I don't have to go into Cambridge every day. It's an hour and a half drive home at night sometimes when I used to work in Cambridge. But in some respects, it's difficult because I wake up in the morning, I go running, and then I am down in my basement working for 8-9 hours. I'll get up and move around a little bit. I've got a stand-up desk now, which is helpful, but I'm definitely feeling sort of like this, like stuck in a routine. Every day is the same. And Stomp, I think you get around a little bit more than I do, but we both talked about this. Like we're grinding to make money, support the family, all that fun stuff, and it's just like it makes it very difficult to stay motivated to keep moving. So do you have any advice for people that are feeling that way? Especially like even we've got a little bit of the light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting older, but like younger people, like I can't imagine, like I couldn't go back to like 30 at this point.
I think in this new era, post-COVID, I think even young people are starting to think maybe the hamster wheel isn't the right life, now people can work at home. That takes some of the strain off the hamster wheel. But I've been there numerous times. In fact, I will tell you, 2021 for me was a complete hamster wheel. And in January, I think I might have told you, I kind of decided I was taking some time off. I've stepped down from one of my roles, and I'm doing a reset. I'm doing a total digital detox, and I work about half of what I worked 3 months ago. So yeah, I think you have to take a careful measure of your psyche and your physical abilities and just your goals and what you want to do, and maybe reassess if you're feeling that way. I, throughout my career, had a penchant for taking either sabbaticals or getting a break from work or quitting a job and going on a climbing expedition. I went to Antarctica between jobs. I went to Nepal between jobs. That's always what's done it for me, is really doing something drastic and getting away and then doing a reset. If you're in tune, if you're feeling that way, take some vacation. Can you get a sabbatical? Change jobs? Do something drastic. You can't do it. You'll burn out. Burning out is not good. And I think that there's alternatives to that now. I think a lot of people have come to the realization that if you give up half your life more than half your life, 90% of your life in some cases, for that career pursuit, that blind pursuit of the dollar or the next promotion, maybe it's not the life you want. So
trailer tramp.
Give it some thought.
Mike, you and Mrs. Mike are going to go trailer tramp around the world for.
Oh yeah. I couldn't get her to buy into that. She would want to be the luxury hotel tramp.
Oh, that's not a bad idea either. I mean, geez.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, that's a good point. But so, Martin, I guess I did want to move on to some of because I guess that dovetails into a little bit of what I was thinking about is like I'd love to get like a sabbatical or be able to do one of these. I think one of my personal dreams, and we'll talk about like France a little bit, is I would love to go and follow like the Tour de France for like 2 weeks and do some of these large climbs when they do the mountain stages like Mont Ventoux or whatever. So I was interested. I was like we were going back and forth about certain topics to cover, and I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the large mountaineering expeditions that you've been on. We talked last week with Cheswick, and I think we talked about this with you as well, is that previously, like, you've done like the trek to base camp in Nepal, and we've talked about, I think, some other big mountains with our friend Jeff Rogers, Mount Fuji, and some other things that he's done in Alaska. But I wanted to just revisit some of the big expeditions you've done, because you don't really, you're kind of humble about it, but like, you've done some awesome mountaineering stuff with like, Mont Blanc, you've done Antarctica, you've done the Matterhorn, and you've done a few other large ones that I can't even remember at this point, I think in South America. So can you talk a little bit about some of those big expeditions? And in particular, I think we want to start about Mont Blanc.
Yeah, well, Mont Blanc, I used to travel to Europe for business, so Europe was very accessible to me. And I'm also a big reader, and I fell in love with the history of mountaineering. The history of mountaineering starts on Mont Blanc, and it centers around Chamonix and Zermatt. So the Matterhorn and Mont Blanc became kind of like something I did a lot. I've done each of them 5 times, and been in both of those places many, many times, because they're just great mountain towns, and they're historic, and they're scenic, and they're great places to escape. But Mont Blanc has a particularly unique place in mountaineering. It's like really where the sport began. Chamonix is a special mountain town. It hosted, I think, the 52 Olympics. So it has all the winter sports. It's got some incredible skiing. It's got rock climbing. But of course, Mont Blanc from the Chamonix side is it's not a particularly difficult climb. It doesn't even qualify as an expedition. It's a 3-day thing at most. It's a day up to the hut to the summit and back to the hut the next day, and then back down the next day. Some people do it in 2 days. I think it's been done round trip in 1 day by some speed demons. So it doesn't really qualify as an expedition, but it feels like a monstrous mountain. It's a big, beautiful, complex mountain. Many ways to get up it. Many guide services. It can be crowded, but it also can be pristinely beautiful. And to me, the summit of Mont Blanc is one of the greatest summits because it's so much higher than everything around it. It feels like Mount Everest, actually. You just can see all across Europe in every direction. And it's a special place. And, the funny thing is, you mentioned the wingsuit. The first time I got to the top of Mont Blanc, being France, and this is, I think it was 1987 was the first time. It was the era of the hang glider. At the time, in Chamonix, you'd look up at any point in time and see 20 hang gliders up in the sky. And there was usually like 1 death a week for someone crashing into the cement in Chamonix. But literally got to the top after 2 days to get up there of 5,000 vertical feet per day, to see some guy literally jump off the summit in a hang glider. And we watched him circling. 15 minutes later, you could see him land in Chamonix. And I'm thinking, I got 2 days to go. He's having a beer,
A short way.
But it was a total mind expansion, seeing someone jump off the top of Mont Blanc in a hang glider and watching all the way down. Amazing. But you can't do it in a wingsuit because it's not steep enough.
Wow. Now, would you say that, how would you compare that to the Matterhorn?
It's a gentler climb. Matterhorn is mostly rock. It's a slag pile of fragmenting rock. It's got some snow on it, but Mont Blanc is a snow climb. Mont Blanc is glaciers, crevasses, undulating ridges. Yeah, it's a beautiful climb. I mean, you feel like you're on a really big mountain. It's a gorgeous mountain.
Yeah. Is it restricted by season? Like, do you have to do it during a certain period, or is it like?
No, I think you can do it year round. Guide services will take you up. There's a lot of guides in Chamonix, a lot of guides. And they're always looking for clients. And so, you can find someone to take you up any time of the year. You don't even really need a guide if you know what you're doing. I mean, it's the routes are fairly well known. There's huts that take off, the edge, serving great meals. Those high alpine huts are incredible. You think what we have in the Whites is elaborate, but the high mountain huts in the Alps are unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Does it require any experience with ropes or anything like that, or is it just?
Yeah, it does. Because it's crevassed. The glaciers, you need to be pretty good at rope travel. You definitely don't want to risk not doing it that way, although people have. But no, you need to be roped up with a rope team, and you need to be experienced enough so that you can self-arrest, do some crevasse rescue if you need to. It's a serious mountain, even though it's only 2 days up. You quickly get into the alpine zone, where you feel like you're in the Himalaya in some ways.
Did you go by yourself, or did you go with a group of friends?
No, I went with four guys, and we were all pretty experienced. One was an experienced guide, a friend of mine who is actually a Rainier guide named George Dunn, and I kept going with George. He's an excellent guide. I did it a couple of times with a French guide, but twice with George, and he's one of the principals of International Mountain Guides in Seattle.
Okay.
And they're still, I recommend them to everybody who asks me where to start. They go around the world. They're great.
And so he guided you up there, or did you use a local guide?
No, George I'd say guided us, but not guided in a sense that dragged us up the hill. He just basically had done it before, and it's always good, at least unless you're a full-time mountaineer. And so it's always good to have someone who's done it before, can at least show you the ropes, and makes it a lot easier. It eliminates a lot of the risk and a lot of the planning concerns. Great experience.
And when you get to the hut, do you leave some gear at the hut that you don't need for the summit, or do you take everything with you?
The huts supply blankets, so you don't have to carry a sleeping bag. You don't have to carry a tent. You don't have to carry food other than what you're going to eat on the climb. So you don't have to carry your meals. So basically, no, you don't leave anything in the hut. You bring your climbing gear, and then the hut supplies everything else.
So it allows you to go a little lighter than you would otherwise, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's why it's not really an expedition. It's a climb. The downside of the huts, obviously, they're crowded. They're sweaty, and there's always going to be three people in any one big bunk room that's snoring. So it's got its pluses, it's got its minuses. But the food is great. The settings are great. Usually, you meet interesting people, and it's outstanding. The European hut system is outstanding.
Yeah. What about language? I'm always nervous about the idea of going to a place where I don't speak the local language, and I'm going to look like the dumb tourist. Did you any issues there? Or do you speak the language?
I speak 10 words in every language.
Okay, perfect.
That's usually, hello, how you doing?
Where's the bathroom?
That's usually enough. And by the way, most places you're going to go, they speak English well enough so that you can get by. And as long as you're not, an asshole American, you're accepted anywhere. I mean, there's obviously the big dumb, boisterous people who don't get accepted anywhere, but I've never had any problems. I love traveling internationally. I've never had any of that you're not wanted here kind of stuff. And the climbing community tends to be pretty welcoming.
Yeah.
As long as you treat them fair, be friendly, and you can go anywhere.
Cool. Stomp, when you did your backpacking in Europe, did you get over by this area at all?
I went to this. I went to the Austrian Alps, and then from there I just booked it straight down to Mykonos and spent some time in the islands. But man, Austria just blew me away. It was incredible, absolutely incredible. Salzburg, Innsbruck. Beautiful. But he's right. It's you can get by. I mean, I spent a month and a half just jumping around trains with basically a traveler's vocabulary, just a handful of words, even in Greece and the islands. Just, you learn it quick and you use it. The beer rudimentary minimum, you can get by.
No, Martin, I'm curious. So Mont Blanc, I go back to I'm a big European cycling fan. So I watch the Volta and the Tour de France and the Giro every year. And I see some of those, my idea is that when I go, I want to go and watch some of the tour stages, but I want to be able to climb Ventoux and some of these other mountains. Have you been around any of the other large, well-known peaks in France?
No,
you haven't done
just Mont Blanc.
Mont Blanc, okay.
Yeah, but, it's kind of been Mecca for me. I mean, I know I know other places in France, but no, as far as mountaineering goes, it's only Mont Blanc for me there.
Okay.
But I hung around Chamonix quite a bit, and the other side of the valley is a great ski area. It's going to come to me in a second what it was called, but it's also a giant ski town, and you can ski on the Mont Blanc side too. really some really impressive verticals and some impressive scenery.
Well,
So skiing is there. I think doesn't the Tour de France go right through Chamonix? I think
it does. Yeah. Usually it will. So,
Yeah.
but I'll do a little bit of research, and I think that Mont Blanc definitely sounds like a place that seems reasonable. But
I would recommend Chamonix. It's just such a vibrant town. It can get crowded. August is everybody's on vacation there, but it's really kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's a really cool place.
Awesome. Well, we wanted to move on. The next one we had on your list is we talked a little bit about Antarctica, but I don't think we did a deep dive on this. So I think me and Stomp are both curious about this. So I think starting with logistics, like how do you get there? Do you fly in, or do you take a ship from like Argentina, or what
No, there's no boat. The boat is not only slow, but it only gets you to the coast, and the mountains are in the interior. So my exact flight route was JFK to Miami to Santiago, Chile, Santiago to Punta Arenas, Chile, which is right down at the tip, and then Punta Arenas to the central part of Antarctica, a place called Patriot Hills, which is an ice strip airfield. They've now moved it to a place called Union Glacier. It's also a black ice strip. You land on the black ice, and then you take a bunch of little planes called the Twin Otters to the mountains, another 2 or 3 hour flight from the ice strip. So you're getting pretty far down near the South Pole, and it's all planes, and the logistics are complicated and crazy expensive.
I can imagine.
So, yeah, I just checked because I thought you were going to ask me about cost and everything. IMG is charging $43,000 to be part of their next expedition, and that doesn't include something. I don't know. Anyway, it's expensive. It's really expensive. It's almost as expensive as climbing Mount Everest now to get to Antarctica. It's a special place. It's still in me. I think about it often, and sometimes the sound will remind me of it. Sometimes, like when it's that cold, snow takes on weird proportions. Snow and ice, weird characteristics. It squeaks sometimes when you talk, and sometimes I'll hear that squeak when it's really cold here in the Northeast, and I'll be right back in Antarctica. It's amazing. It's such an overwhelming sensory experience, and of course the sun doesn't ever go down, so it's light all the time. And you're just so overwhelmed with inputs, and you have to plan it out pretty carefully because you get killed there. It's easy to disappear in Antarctica, and so you have to be uber prepared and experienced and confident and with good people.
So obviously, like, there's a huge cost to this. I'm assuming most of the cost is because you've got to get all of your equipment and food and all that logistical stuff set up. So when you fly in, like, how close are you? What's the name of the peak that you hiked?
Vinson Massif. It's at Mount Vinson. It's the tallest peak in Antarctica. It's one of the 7 summits. It's like almost 17,000 feet, 16,700.
Got it. And then how close are you when you land? Like how like from a distance, how many miles away are you from Vinson?
Well, you're right at the base,
okay.
on a glacier. And I would say from base camp to the summit is maybe 12 miles, maybe, and it takes 4 days to get up through 3 different camps. But that's if the weather's perfect, and usually you get a snow day or a wind day where you have to lay in camp. It was about a 3-week expedition, being on the ice for 3 weeks, and then we had to wait another week for the plane to come pick us up. So about a month on the ice, and it's really great. I did it. I think it was 1992. But it's much easier, not easier now, logistically easier, because we had propeller planes. Now there's a jet that gets you right down to Union Glacier. It's warmer. They've actually built up a semi-permanent base camp of little hut-like tents, Quonset hut type stuff. When we did it, it was really primitive. In fact, it had barely been climbed. I think I'm going to get the number close. I think I was the 123rd person ever to get up to the top of that mountain, and that was in 1993. It had only been climbed, for the first time. I think it was 1967 was the first time anybody got there and got to the top. So it was really rare, and it was really special because we did it 1 week after Reinhold Messner had been there.
Oh, wow!
And Messner, we crossed paths with him. A couple of famous people. Messner was raving about how he thought it was a better view from the top of Mount Vinson than the top of Mount Everest. I'll take his word for it. It was pretty amazing. White as far as the eye could see. There was nothing but ice. Nothing but ice.
What's on the peak? Is there any markers or anything? Anybody leave anything on the peak?
No, Antarctica is one of those places where you try to keep it pristine. I literally at the summit there was a ski pole stuck in there just to mark the top. Not that you'd miss it, but no, it's very pristine. It's carry in, carry out. You try to keep that place as clean as possible because it'll never decompose. Nothing will ever decompose there. It's it's always below zero.
Wow, and then it's 16,000 feet, so you do have to worry about altitude sickness there.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Usually you're sleeping at about 12,000 the night before the final push. That's borderline altitude sickness, and you're usually fit enough and acclimated enough where I didn't think about it for 1 second, to tell the truth, Mike.
Okay.
Anything under 20,000 feet is usually you acclimate pretty fast, and if you're fit and you're taking your time, you're okay. Mm-hmm. So we never thought about altitude at all.
Got it.
The interesting thing about being at the pole is because the Earth spins, believe it or not, there's less oxygen at 16,000 feet at the pole than there is at the equator because of the spinning. The Coriolis effect, I guess, sucks the air out towards the poles. So there's less air there. And even with that, we didn't notice it. It was just kind of a geographic anomaly that they told us about after the fact. We didn't notice it.
And are you roped up on this hike, or is this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it's all glacier. There's not a speck of anything that isn't ice, and it doesn't snow much in Antarctica, so it's all ice, and moving glacier, and as a result, it has crevasses, and you don't always see where they are. So you got to be roped up all the time.
Now, how does that work? Because I haven't been I've never done anything with ropes. Are people going up ahead of time and setting ropes, or are you just all roped up together?
No, they're not fixed ropes. No, it's not fixed ropes on Vincent. I think now someone told me they did put a fixed rope in to one spot that is a little dangerous, but no, you're rope teams. You're all roped together. You're not climbing a rope. You're not pulling yourself up. You're roped together so that in the event one person falls into a crevasse, he's attached to other people who will stop the fall and be able to rescue him. It's rope team travel. It's the way mountaineering used to be. It's not that way on Everest anymore. Everybody's clipped into a fixed rope, but it's actually one of the things I like the most about it. And that's the way it is. Like if you climb Rainier, you learn rope team technique. There's no fixed ropes. You're learning how to move as a team with a rope. That's mountaineering to me. What's happening on Mount Everest, which is pulling yourself up a fixed line, you don't even need an ice axe or any technique anymore. You just pull yourself up a rope. Mount Vincent, Mont Blanc, Mount Rainier, Matterhorn, you need mountaineering technique. And that's really what was the most appealing thing to me is it was, I think it's a beautiful sport,
Well, so another quick question I have is so if me and Stomp went to Antarctica and then I couldn't make it, something happened, I trip and I fall into a crevice or whatever, if I die, this isn't like Mount Everest where you're leaving people on there. Stomp would have to drag my body back down to fly out, right? They don't just did you have an agreement with your crew to say if something goes wrong, we're going to get your body back, or are you just we can't guarantee what's going to happen? Stomp, you would bring my body back, right?
Possibly.
Never even thought of it, to tell the truth.
Really? So you never thought that way, Martin?
No, listen, if you fell into a crevasse and disappeared, you're there for the rest of eternity. No one's going to rescue you. It's just too hard in the mountains, and it's practically impossible. And that's not quite as ruthless as Everest. It's not it's not nearly in the same degree of danger. You're not at 8,000 meters, which changes the game completely because your body is dying at 8,000 meters. So you're not that high. Still, it would be hard to rescue someone. I'm not sure if there's ever been a fatality there to deal with that. I'm going to have to look that up. It's blowing my mind that I don't know that. I don't think there has been. Usually, if you go there, you're pretty accomplished, and you're not going to take any stupid risks. And truthfully, it isn't that dangerous. You have to take caution because it is a glacier. It's remote. It's 30 below zero most of the time, so you have to not take care of yourself. But that aside, it's not like there's an ice fall like Everest where it's collapsing all the time, and it's not like you can. There's sheer precipices where you're going to fall 5,000 feet. It's a long uphill walk in the snow,
Got it.
So there's your answer. If you fall into a crevasse, catch you later, buddy.
Stomp, get down there and get me out of there.
I'll go get help.
Well, you probably can get a contract or make an agreement or bring along a guide to rescue. If you want to pay somebody extra to recover your body, sure.
Yeah. Well, that's my next question then, is like these bigger expeditions, or even like, if you're doing like Mount Rainier or whatever, like selecting a guide, getting into the whole guide services thing. You sort of answered the question already, but like you already, like, sounds like you're connected to a pretty good guide, but like, what are some things to look for? And then what are some red flags that you want to look out for when you're talking to these guys?
I think it's a matter of experience. Like if you're talking about Rainier, if you stick with the two main guide services there, they're very well trained, very experienced. It's a factory getting people, sometimes even newbies, up Mount Rainier. So at Rainier, you want to go with Rainier Mountaineering or International Mountain Guides. I think there may be another service up there, but if they're licensed to operate on Rainier, they're good. I wouldn't hire a one-of kind of guide anywhere, probably because they don't have the resources to be insured, to be sure they're competent. And you got to use word of mouth, and word of mouth with sole proprietor guides, it's hit or miss, I think. So, it depends. If you're in Chamonix, most of those guys have pretty clear climbing resumes. Most of them that you'd hire have climbed Mont Blanc 300 times, and it's second nature. It's about experience. It's about experience, and that's the key thing. So.
What about, and again, I don't know, maybe you've done most of these big expeditions like before technology was even an option, but as far as like personal locator beacons, satellite phones, all that stuff, was that factored into any?
Yeah, everybody carries that now. It's standard practice. You don't want to ever be without a satellite phone or a beacon. When we were at in Vincent, even in '92, we had a radio system set up at base camp. But when we were above base camp, you were out of touch, clearly out of touch. But we could communicate from base camp with Patriot Hills, who could then communicate with the rest of the world. And we actually had a guy on our trip whose dad died, and he managed to get through radio in touch with his mother in, I think, California while we were in Antarctica, even back in '92. So, but I would never even, I don't even hike the Whites without a GPS beacon. I carry a spot device. You were talking about other devices, the InReach. I would never do that. So at least, for the very least, so your family knows where your carcass is located.
Yeah, exactly.
But nowadays, I think it's pretty commonplace to get on a satellite phone and talk to your family from Mount Vincent Base Camp in Antarctica.
If you were giving somebody advice about like a cool sort of adventurous trip that didn't involve like needing mountaineering experience, maybe it did involve needing a guide, like what would be one of your top recommendations?
Kilimanjaro, for sure.
Kilimanjaro?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a mountaineering. It's a big mountain. It's almost 20,000 feet, but you're not roped up. It's basically Mount Washington on super steroids because it's 20,000 feet tall. And it takes 6 days to get up because it's really big. And the longer you take, the better you'll acclimate. So it's better. But that's a great first big mountain experience because, first of all, you've got a crew usually carries your stuff and does all the cooking. So you're carrying a medium-sized pack. It's an incredible adventure. And you're in an exotic place on a huge mountain, and it's a nice, relaxing trip, and just hard enough so you feel like you've accomplished something significant. And then you get to the top, and you're looking out of all of Africa. I mean, it's amazing.
Cool. All right, Stomp. Any questions for Martin? We've been talking about big mountaineering stuff here.
Yeah, one quick one. Have you ever experienced snow blindness?
Minimal. The beginnings of it. Fortunately, not anything worse than that. Bad headaches, and you have to, for a day or so, you feel like you got stuff floating around in your eyes, and it's just one of those things. I think it might even have been Mont Blanc. I lost my sunglasses.
Ah, there you go.
And when you're on a glacier, I'm thinking about it. Not at the same time, I also got the worst sunburn in my life, because when you're on a glacier, not only do you have to protect from the sun coming up, but it reflects off the snow. So I forgot to cream up the bottom of my nose and the roof of my mouth, and panting, I got sunburn in my nostrils and in my upper lip. Oh my God, it was the worst sunburn I ever had. So, but snow blindness and sunburn on the same event, but nothing super to complain about. It was just minimal snow blindness, minimal.
Interesting. So it's basically UV rays just burning portions of your eye, essentially. So
yeah.
So what are you wearing? Goggles or those cool mountaineering glasses with the side shields?
Yeah, I've done all of that, and I think what I lost was a pair of, at the time, what was the brand name? It was real cool, kind of a goggle thing that was kind of like all the triathletes are wearing at the time. It'll come to me in a second what the brand name was. It was really cool. They were super expensive, and I lost them on Mont Blanc.
Huh.
And they look really good in the pictures too, because they were reflective and orangey, and they're just so cool. Very French.
Like Riddick with Vin Diesel or something.
I should have had goggles on with the band, but no, they're like sunglass things,
Cool.
So yeah, live and learn.
Excellent.
Awesome. So Martin, you want to talk a little bit about the book? Want to plug the book and talk about the new chapters?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So the book is pretty much a combination of fitness, hiking, my adventures, and the adventures of a lot of people I talked to, rolled into why should I be hiking, and why is hiking the fountain of youth? Now, again, I mentioned I wrote it just as COVID started, and so I didn't think it got a fair shot. I didn't get to do the speaking. I didn't get to do the bookstore intros and all that stuff, and I want to do that again. So I've decided to write version number 2. I'm hoping that it'll be done later in the summer, and I've added a few chapters that, for some reason, my editors wanted extracted last time. But the 2 chapters are on nutrition and hydration, which are important parts of this whole thing. And then I've got some better stories. I'm interviewing some different people, and I think hiker stories are an important part of it. It gives, I think, the reader the feeling that this isn't an elite sport. This is an accessible sport, and there's just so many great stories about people who have used hiking to reinvent their lives. And if they can do it, so can you. And that's what I'm trying to do, is encourage more people to see the joys of this and the benefits. And if I can somehow do that because of my experience and my story, that's what we're doing. So we're going to do this second version. I'm looking for sponsors, actually, meaning because I had REI set up to do speeches. Perfect world for me is to get REI to sponsor book 2, or EMS or somebody. I'm gonna start doing that soon, because I'm getting close to finishing the writing part, and I would love to have some kind of a relationship with a hiking company, boot company, And so I'm working on that. But I think this book, this version will be a little bit better. I like what I wrote. I thought the production values were mediocre. I want to do more color pictures, and just make it more appealing to a broader audience. So I thought this is a good time to do it.
Yeah, well, I definitely like it. It's called Secrets of Aging Well, Get Outside. Martin Pazzani, and you can get this. I'll include in the show notes a couple of ways that you can get the book if you're interested. But I think every hiker should be checking this out. And the big thing that I always say about this, and the epiphany that I had, was that you want to look at the long game. Like, I know a lot of people are driven and they want to. Sorry, I have a FaceTime thing going on. A lot of people are very driven and they want to kill it out there in the hiking world, but you got to balance it out with the long-term vision here. And I think that your book really sort of gives a good perspective on how to balance those two competing interests.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And it's good that you're doing a hydration chapter, because Stomp has a whole section here that he's going to cover about water filters and purification.
Yeah, I saw that. Really cool.
Yeah, just in time for the spring and summer, and I thought it might be nice following up with our buddies here, Pazzi on the PCT and Chez doing his 7,000-mile trek. Holy moly.
Are you ready for SLASR's weekly gear review?
What do we have? We have filtering versus Water Purification. Basically, filters remove dirt, grime, fish shit, if you want to be crude, and some smaller microorganisms like Giardia, which is pretty nasty. It's a parasite that causes diarrhea. Generally, filters are not going to be stopping viruses. I mean, around here in the whites, filters will do the trick for you. And within filters, you have personal water filters, straws, and squeezes. All this stuff is absolutely more beneficial than your purification tabs in the whites, I would say. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my whole philosophy on this is like I carry a filter, and I try to carry as little water as possible, and I try to do some research to make sure that I've got water access when I'm doing hikes. And sometimes I screw it up, but
yeah.
I definitely carry a filter. I don't do anything else other than just run it through the filter, though. And sometimes I don't even do the filter if I'm really thirsty. But
so purifiers on the other end of the spectrum, I mean, they kill microorganisms, and basically you're looking at chemical tablets, UV light, which is pretty amazing. As for chemical treatments, it's probably just emergency only. If you're really in a bad situation, just stick them in your first aid pack so you have them just in case. And they kill protozoa, bacteria, viruses, and other harmful chemicals. So personal preference, I don't personally use filtering in the whites. Like you said, Mike, I plan ahead. I have been in the habit for ages now of just carrying the water. If you're the type of person that wants to use a filter or does use a filter, like Mike said, just making sure that water is available on your route, and be prepared. There are several methods of filtering and purification. So basically we have boiling, you've got the tablets, UV light, pump filters, gravity water filters. How do you use these, and what are they best for? Boiling is going to kill everything, which is great, but that entails carrying a stove, propane, things like that. So you're going to be adding weight to your pack. When would you want to use it? I would guess probably backpacking, overnight trips, that type of thing, or in the winter if you want to make water or heat up water for your Nalgene's, which are really handy when it's sub-zero. Sticking those Nalgene's in your sleeping bag can be really great. Tablets, again, like I said, it's not going to filter your water. It's time consuming. Some of these tablets will take 30 minutes to even upwards of 4 hours to impact the water. What's great about it? There's no weight. It's not going to take up any space in your pack or anything like that. Again, best for emergency situations. And doing some research, it was really interesting. So you have chlorine dioxide tablets, chlorine, the same old pool formula that all of us grew up with. And then there's iodine, which apparently doesn't kill cryptosporidium. Anybody know what that is?
I just know that I don't want it.
Yeah, you don't want it. Let's see, UV light. This is fairly new to the market, I would think, right?
Yeah, I haven't no experience with it. I've seen it around. Haven't heard much about it.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So here's the deal with UV light. It takes batteries. So you have the pros. You have rechargeable batteries. You can treat like 3,000 to 8,000 liters per battery charge. The bad news is it will kill the microorganisms, but may not catch that little fish stuff or dirt or silt. I mean, most of these places that I research recommend that you're using this for international travel and stuff like that. It's not very practical for day hikes and would be over the top. Now, everybody that we know around here uses the pump filters, personal filters, like the Sawyer Mini and things like that. Pros, cost effective, super lightweight. You have systems that adapt to different water bottles and things like that. The cons, in my opinion, I've run into trouble with the filtering process where you have to, backflow like the Mini and things like that. And it's a lot of exertion. So that's one negative to these mechanisms. And the other thing, they won't get rid of microorganisms smaller than 0.2 microns. So viruses are not going to be eliminated, which I don't think is a major concern, but just so you know. What are they best for? Day hiking, I would say.
Yeah, I honestly, I went back and forth on a bunch of water filtering in the whites over time. Like me and my friend Tom, we go hiking, and originally we were like, all right, well, let's bring one filter. We'll bring a gravity or a pump filter that we can both use. And what I quickly found was that I brought my Sawyer Mini as a backup, and I had just a smart water bottle, and I was like, why are we killing ourselves with this like whole pump situation and like the gravity feed, and it takes so long and it's a lot heavier. And for me, like if you're going to be doing day hiking or even like a weekend overnight situation, like to me the best system that I found is the smart water bottles with the Sawyer Mini just on top of it, or the regular Sawyer, depending on what your preference is, and just I scoop out that water in the water source into the smart water bottle. I screw on the Sawyer Mini, and then I just put that in my front pocket, and then I got a liter of water ready to go, and then I just refill up on the next water source.
Right.
So that's mostly what I've been doing.
Yeah. So speaking of the gravity water filters, the pros, you can take care of large volume for bigger groups. Cons, heavier weight, again, pack space. The top picks, for backpacking, the suggestions would be the Platypus Gravity Works, which is about $89 backcountry, $75 on Amazon. The Katahdin Be-Free Gravity, which can hold 6 liters. And the Katahdin Hiking. So for individual use or day hikes, everybody's seen this. The Sawyer Mini, it's about $30 or so. It's super light, removes giardia and waterborne bacteria and debris. And I like these. I know some folks that use these. The Life Straws personal water filter, they're like $14. Can't beat it. And the Sawyer Squeeze, which is sort of what turned me off of all these filters. I don't know, a little bit of work to get those things to work. And then here's a new one, MSR Trail Shot Pocket. It's like $54. It looks ideal for ultra runners and people that are looking to pack light. So as for purifiers, there's the Camelback Water Purifier. You can look at that. That's a UV. And for best flow rate, they suggest the Katahdin Be-Free. And that's one of those water filter bottle systems for $45.
Yeah, I think my sister-in-law uses those. So I don't know how long the filters last for, but I think the filters just screw into the top of the water bottle, and you can swap them out if you need to. But
yeah,
the big thing about all these is like you have to get down. Having some knowledge of the trail systems is great, because if you know where the water sources are, you can really just like start with almost no water. And my goal whenever I do these hikes is I like to start with a half a liter, and then have a liter bottle with me. Finish that half a liter by the time I get to the first water source, and then fill up from there, and then hopefully get to the next water source by the time I run out of the next liter, so that I'm not carrying a lot of weight. That's mostly how I handle most of the day hikes. And, sometimes you can't do that depending on how long you're going, or if it's like the Northern Presidentials, and you don't have that option as much. But for the most part, I've been able to mostly make it through day hikes for the majority of the 4,000 footers and the 52 with the views with like a liter or less of water carried, at least in 3 seasons, not so much winter, but
yeah,
that's the goal.
Yep. Now, as for tablets, I can imagine an AT hiker using tablets in certain more, suburban areas or city stretches. I'm sure that might come in handy. I'd be curious to know. But you have a couple options. You have P&G water purifier packs, and Aquatabs and Aquamira. They range from like $13 to about $24. And they kill 99.99% of bacteria and viruses. And then for those of you that are super duper paranoid about your water, the UV purifiers come at a cost. The Katahdin SteriPen Ultra is $130. And then there's the SteriPen Adventura Opti UV, which is $90. So again, this is a little stick. You stick it in your water, the light turns on and kills everything in the water. So pretty interesting stuff.
Who would use those?
Like I said, super paranoid folks. If you're looking to kill the viruses and everything else that's possibly in the water, but for the most part around here, I think you're dealing with the parasites that get into your intestines and cause that kind of illness. Perhaps like Ches was saying, looking up in the field and seeing the cows and dealing with fecal matter and things like that. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've yet to see
Martin,
it on
what
the
did you
trail.
guys do in Antarctica for water? Did you have to just melt snow, or did they ship it in?
Yeah, no. There's ice everywhere, right? So you chip it, put it in a pot, turn it, and melt it. It's all. You make it your own.
That's it. Yeah.
And obviously, it's pure because of that, because you're boiling it. But more closer to home, I do use aquatabs. I'm a little paranoid about water. In Nepal, I got really sick. I got H. pylori bacteria, and take antibiotics to get rid of it. And fecal matter, and you just can't control it in some of the third world countries. It's really filthy. Even though we were boiling water and filtering it, and occasionally putting some kind of a chlorine tab in there, we all still got H. pylori bacteria. It's just so I'm a little bit out of the country. I'm pretty paranoid about water. Here, kind of like I guess Stomp, you just said it. I sometimes will fill half a water bottle right out of a stream if I'm in a place that's lower traffic and not worry too much about it. I do carry aquatabs, strangely enough. I got in the habit of doing that years ago before all the filters came out, and I don't like the taste it leaves. So what I'll do is I'll usually bring something to flavor the water with after I've used the tabs. So, but I think we're mostly okay if you here in New England if you're careful about where you pick your water.
Well, it's interesting. That's what they suggest, that the UV would be more for international, and perhaps that's the cure for you.
Yeah. I mean, the standards are very different outside of the U.S. for water and food. So I'm more careful when I'm abroad. But here, I'm not too worried about it. Although I did actually, strangely enough, get Giardia once, whitewater rafting in Maine. Oh, my God, that was awful. Yeah, I jumped into I think it was the Dead River or the Penobscot, I can't remember what, in a wetsuit. Just had the raft tow me for a while. And then 2 or 3 days later, I had the worst diarrhea of my life for about a week. Yeah, and it turned out to be Giardia.
Good.
Wow.
But, go figure.
Unreal.
Well, anyway.
Let me give you one strategy. We're talking about hydration, something you don't think about, because you talk about how much water you want to carry. I tend to carry heavy on water. I run hot, so I like carrying water. Don't want to worry about finding it. But here's a strategy most people don't think about. Prehydrate.
Oh, sure.
Bring an extra water bottle, drink it in the car at the trailhead before you start. And that will you just be amazed at how that will stay with you. If you prehydrate, you're probably cutting the leader out of what you're going to have to carry, and you're enhancing the start of your hike. Also, keep a water bottle in the car so that when you're done, the moment you get to the car, you can rehydrate. Just simple strategies like that. You don't have to carry it. Just keep it in the car.
Yeah, and I'm so bad about that, because usually what I'll do is I'll order a extra large iced coffee and drink that on the way, and then I'm jacked up on caffeine. But I feel like for some reason I have it in my head that coffee and caffeine doesn't help with your hydration. But maybe I'm wrong about that.
That's an argument that I've been having with people for years. It does, actually, even though it's a diuretic.
Okay.
It's still water, and it doesn't. It's not as good as water because it does have a diuretic effect, but it's not nothing. So it does help. But you can't beat guzzling a liter of water in the car on the way before you start.
Okay. Well, I'll try to do that. But it's just very difficult because I'm always hiking in the morning, and I'm so tempted to get that giant iced coffee. But maybe I'll switch it.
Do both.
Yeah, I'll do both.
Do both.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Stomp, you'll have to wait for me. I'll be peeing for the first mile or two. So.
Right.
So, all right. Well, I'm scared to move into this next segment, Stomp.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm
afraid.
Let's dive into some White Mountains history, shall we?
Do you speak Abenaki, Martin? Wait, you said you have 10 words in each language.
Yeah, I'm going to have to study up on 9 of them now. No, it's new to me, and I love this debate. I can't wait to see when we change the name Mount Washington to whatever it's going to be called.
Yes.
Who can pronounce it correctly?
Yes, exactly. Do you know, this is a sidebar, but I forget what it's called, the Geographic Names Database. I think it's Agia Cook or something like that. We'll talk about it, but there's 20 different names that have been applied to that mountain. So it's
sure
who the heck knows. But continue, Stomp, with your linguistics lesson that you're going to give us here.
Yes. Well, that's the disclaimer. We are not linguists here at SLASR. Everybody knows
Clearly.
that. Clearly with our history of basic grammar in New England. But I had some time to kill this week, so I did some digging about the Abenaki tribe. And I just want to briefly talk about their history and then talk about the language, because guess what? We've all had it wrong. It's just to begin with, it's not Abenaki. It's Abenaki. So that B is a P. So it's really fascinating. So let's just talk about this tribe. Who are they? Well, Abenaki basically is derived from the word, again, we say Wabanaki, but that's incorrect as well. So it's actually Abenaki, which means people of the dawn. They're a Native American people belonging to the Algonquin family of Native American tribes. And their history that I could find dates back to the 1680s. And, they had populations running all the way from the Rockies all the way to eastern Canada, Vermont, Maine. Currently, there are about 2,500 to 3,000 Abenaki in the U.S. And in Canada, apparently, there's probably close to like 9,000 to 10,000. The Abenaki were part of the Abenaki Confederacy. This is amazing. So there were several eastern Algonquin nations, including the Maliseet and the Penobscot tribes, and collectively they were called the Abenaki. Okay, so that's the confederacy that they had at the time. And they actually had a capital, and the capital was located in Arcadia, Maine. So the capital was called Awapanakik, which meant the Dawnland. And I just find that so romantic. If you think about that portion of Maine and Arcadia and the coast, I mean, it's just beautiful.
Well, it also tells you that like they knew how to pick the beautiful spots to settle in.
Yeah, they sure did. I mean, absolutely beautiful. So the tribe that impacts the White Mountains in particular was called the Western Abenaki tribe. And historically, again, they lived in Vermont and New Hampshire. And they actually still have an organization in Vermont. So it's pretty cool if you look it up. So let's get into the grammar. This is the most amazing thing. So what I found was some changes here. Like J is pronounced Z. W is more like an ow or owl, as if you were to say owl. U is pronounced EO. The letter C is pronounced ts. So the word chaga, like Jimmy Chaga, would actually be tsaga. It's really interesting. The A is the one that messed me up the most because it's not like a it's a like master. So that's the one that really gets interesting. So here we go. Let's check these out. I did some research, Mike. I found your name.
You did? Okay.
It would, it would be pronounced Miss Al. Miss Al.
Miss Al. I like that better than Michael.
Now, for Martin and myself, Stomp, we don't have our names in the language. But if you were to pronounce based upon the grammar rules, Martin, yours would be Maytin. And then Stomp would be Stomp. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Now, this is cool. This is a little inside baseball, but my wife has a tattoo, which is on her arm, and it's Agiakachuk. So we always thought it was Agiakachuk from Mount Washington. It's the coolest looking tattoo. But here we go. Ready? This is the way you're actually supposed to pronounce this.
This is the Native American word for Mount Washington.
Well, this is the Abenaki way to say it. So it's Agiatsotsohok.
Really?
So we were way off. I know a lot of people call it Agiakachuk, but it's Agiatsotsohok. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's wicked cool. So I just put together a few hiking phrases in the language, which might be fun. So let's check these out.
Okay.
Let's see. It looks like rain. Sogel on Giskat. Give it a shot, Mike.
Sogel on Giskat.
Very good, very good.
You know what it reminds me? What's the what are those like? What's the Worf on Star Trek? What is his language?
He's either a Klingon or a Romulan, isn't he?
Yeah, Klingon. Yeah, Klingon. That's what it feels like. So
Oh, yeah, okay. This is a good one. I'm hungry. Nikatopi. Yeah, this is a good one from my wife, actually, because she gets hungry and grumpy. So I'm going to tell her that. She can tell me that.
Do you know, like, are any of the tribe members that they speak the language now, or is it just they understand it from an academic perspective?
When I went to the website, it's all in English. And I dropped them an email, actually. I'll keep you posted. I was hoping to find somebody that could come in and talk to us about their history and their language that really knows it, because, it is very fascinating, and it's a beautiful language when you really start looking at it. Yeah. So I'll keep you posted on that. But check it out. It'll pop right up. If you type in Abenaki, Vermont, I think that's the primary tribal organization in the region at the moment.
So, Mike, what comes to mind is if you're looking for content for your T-shirts, I think some of these phrases in authentic native language are perfect.
Oh, yeah. Very cool. Very cool. In Abenaki.
Yeah. Well, you have one. I like so I'll try this one. It's I want to go home.
Go ahead.
Which sometimes when I'm hiking, I sort of get that. So this is.
No, it's got to be, are we there yet? How far to the summit?
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? Oh my God, I don't even know if I can try this. So I want to go home is Nigarti Mondizi Ni Owig On Minok.
Very good. Yeah, it's perfect.
Wow.
Right on the money.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a good one for all the couples out there. This is sometimes you do not listen to me. Sao I nata kapest awipa. Sometimes you do not listen to me.
This is all good stuff. So I'll post these all on the show notes here, and then Stomp, like some animal names, some body parts. You want to throw a couple out?
Sure. Let's see. Bear would be aau asos. A deer would be Nolk I. Fish, ne mas. Moose is mose. It's just awesome. Yeah. We'll post all the words if you want. I will just put them up there so the SLASR fan base can learn them and start talking.
Yeah. And if you listen to the show and you're part of the Abenaki tribe, let us know. We'll have you on here, whether you're in Canada or Vermont or wherever.
Yeah, well, that'd be fantastic.
Awesome.
Cool. Good job.
Yeah, nice work, Stomp. So next up, we've got a couple of search and rescue news stories to cover here. So the first one is so the snowmobile issues are starting to slow down and the hiking is starting to pick up. So hiker suffered from unknown medical condition, rescued from Carter Hut. So this happened on March 21st, so over the weekend. Fish and game and rescue volunteers from Androscoggin Valley Search and Rescue, Stoneheart Outdoor Learning Opportunities, which is solo, AMC, and then Mountain Rescue Services responded to a call of a hiker suffering from an unknown medical condition at Carter Notch Hut. Initial call came in at 7 o'clock from a Garmin alarm indicating a problem. The hiker is 49-year-old from Dubai, United Arab Emirates, had hiked to Carter Notch Hut, planned to spend the night, and was walking around the hut. He started to experience a concerning medical ailment that necessitated a rescue response. So due to the nature of the reported medical condition and distance to the nearest road, calls were made to get as many volunteers as possible to deal with the 4-mile carryout. So they had about 20 volunteers and 8 conservation officers respond. So they had to, I guess he had sudden improvement when they got there, so they wanted to have him attempt to walk slowly out on his own power. So they were able to stay close to him, and about 2 hours into the hike, they had to put him into a litter to make it out the final mile. So it took them 2 hours to get 3 miles, and then they carried him out, and I guess all good. At 2 a.m., they got him out and put him in an ambulance. So I don't know. It doesn't say what the medical condition is, but maybe he was having some heart issues or something.
Yeah, that's a 4-mile trail.
Yeah.
What struck me about this, the conditions, I mean, if Smartsbrook here with the glare ice is any indication, then that trail was pretty sketchy.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, but all's well that ends well. So that is all that we had in the White Mountains, but I did want to talk about, and again, I don't know the Adirondacks, Martin, maybe you've been up there before, but there was another situation. A Connecticut hiker was found deceased on Friday, a 63-year-old gentleman in New York's Adirondack Mountains after he's reported missing. Gentleman, 63 years old. He went missing on Wednesday. His last known location was Marcy Dam Lean-To, and they were able to locate his car at the parking lot, and then they found his body 10:30 on Friday. So he had signed a trail register on Mount Colden as his destination. And then I read another article. It's actually not on this one I'm looking at, but there was another article that said they found him under about 4 feet of snow. So they don't know if he had fallen and then got covered up with a snowdrift, or whether or not he got hung up in an avalanche, or what the story was. But it did look like it was a bit of a steep section there. I don't really know. It's called the Trap Dyke, I think. So yeah. I don't really know the area that well to comment one way or the other, but sad situation. I don't know, Martin, have you been over the Adirondacks at all?
I've never once hiked. I've been in the Adirondacks for vacation, but not hiked it at all. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, neither have I.
Yeah. So, and then the last one, Stomp. I think we missed this one last week. I can't. If we did it and I'm repeating it, I apologize. But there was and our friend George, who has been on the show a couple of times, he talked pretty in depth about like ice safety, and we definitely want to have him back in next year before the winter season. But there was a 70-year-old man from Moultonborough that had passed away. He drove his truck on the ice on Berry Pond, and the truck went in head first, and then he didn't make it out. So, and I can't remember if I did this story last week or not, so I wanted to just cover it.
I think we may have, but it's actually a really good reminder, because this is the time when the ice is fragile. Moving forward, this is the time where people are going to start venturing out there and getting in trouble. So just be super careful.
Yeah. Stay safe out there, and that's all I got. Oh, one other thing, Stomp. I did put together a count of the snowmobile media stories this winter.
Yeah.
I don't know if you looked on the script or not, the numbers there, but do you have a guess on how many snowmobile calls there were?
I'm not sure. I mean, it seemed like it was close to 100 or something.
Yeah, it was 40 plus media reports for snowmobile accidents this winter.
Yeah, I'd like to compare that to the summer numbers with ATVs. That'd be really interesting to see if there's a difference. Yeah,
well, I mean, if you figure like the snowmobile season's like 12 weeks, 3 months or so, we average around 100 to 120 hiking calls a year that are reported in the media. So snowmobiles are at the equivalent of hikers at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Incredible, high volume.
Yeah, exactly. So stay safe out there. But that's all I got. So Martin, it was great to catch up again. Thank you so much. And again,
yeah, always great to be with you guys. It's such an engaging bunch of content you put together. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Thank you.
Buy Martin's book, and we'll definitely, Martin, I'm sure we'll have you back in again in the future.
See you next week, and happy birthday.
Yeah, I'll catch you on the other side of 50.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want to learn more about the topics covered on today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information on SLASRpodcast.com. That's SLASR podcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until next time, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words to describe this race. Do we all know what they are? Only one hill!
Lieutenant James Neeland, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.